questions if you so choose. So let's get started. Financial statement design and maintenance. Just as an overview of what we'll be going over today, in Jonas you get 3 different designs. You get A, B, and C per company. So by designs, what we mean are you can have 3 different ways or 3 different sets of descriptions on your financial statement or rows that GLs point to. So you can have one that's really summarized, one that's like 1 line per GL account, really detailed, and maybe one that's in between. Within those 3, you also get a balance sheet and an income statement. So you can have 3 different balance sheets and 3 different income statements, all under design A, B, or C. So your financial statements in Jonas are made up of line numbers. The line numbers are not general ledger accounts. Line numbers are a completely different set of numbers with a different description that general ledger accounts are set to point to. So what we'll do is go through how to create those, how to change them, and how to point those general ledger accounts to those line numbers. The line numbers are what make up the structure of your financial statements. And you can have, just like I said before, in the 3 different designs, 3 different sets of line numbers. So once you have your line numbers created, we'll go into how to create and maintain your headings and totals. So those just group the line numbers together. You can change the descriptions on them, you can change the wording. So the headings and total are how you get the total sales, total revenue, net income, total assets. That's how you get those lines on your financial statements. You can also add special features to your financial statements like page breaks or line breaks for extra spacing, so we'll go over how to create those. Then we'll talk a little bit about one of the most popular questions we get on financial statements, budget codes, how to get your budget on your financial statement and how to maintain that. So let's go through creating financial statements first. So there are a couple different ways to create financial statements. So if you're here because you want to create your financial statements from scratch, you're not using Jonas for Financials right now, what you can use is the Quick Setup Financials program. Everything to do with financial statements is under General Ledger and then Design, and this program here is right at the top of that menu, Quick Setup Financials. So this is only for new designs. So if you are using, say, Company 01, and right now you're using Design A, but you'd like to create your own, maybe Design B or C, you can go ahead and use B or C in Quick Setup Financials. You cannot edit A in Quick Setup Financials because it's already been created. So the first place that this program will take you is this screen here. On this side, these are all the different lines created on your financial statements, and on this side are all your GL codes. So to create a new line, what you'll do is double-click and then type in the description, and the description is what prints on your financial statements. Hit Enter, and then over here, just double-click on the GLs. That should point to that line. If you make a mistake or you want to get a GL account back, the ones that have already been selected will be dropped down here, and you'll be able to just double-click on them to get them back up into the eligible box. So the line numbers will get numbered automatically. As you create them, each one will be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and go up by 10s. That leaves you 9 spaces in between for future dates when you might have to add some lines in between them. So again, it's just double-click on the row, type in the description, hit Enter, and then choose the GL accounts that should point to that line number. And this is only for brand new financial statements. There's also a good background for if you already have financial statements, probably how they were created in the first place. So once you're done choosing the line numbers and the GL accounts that they should point to, it'll ask you for your headings and totals. So now for each line number that's been created, you have a space above and below. And what you'll do is double-click first where you'd like a header to go. So for in this example, I've clicked right at the top. This box will pop up, and you can put in the description of your header and the description of your total. So this is going to be my net income line. So what I've done is just put in a total description. The header I've left blank because I don't need to see anything up top in the header. If this was a revenue line, for example, I would put in revenues up top and then total revenues at the bottom. So once you've put in your descriptions, you can choose whether or not you need to reverse the sign of this total. So reverse the sign just means when you have sales and it goes into your GLs, those sales go in as a credit, which is actually a negative. If you don't reverse the sign, it will show up on your financial statement as a negative, which you definitely do not want. So you can have this sign reversed for the presentation just so it looks like positive numbers. You can also choose whether or not to print the total. So sometimes you just want a header so that you can designate between groups, but you don't need a total for that grouping. So you can uncheck or check to print the total. And then you can choose your underline, whether you want the single line or the double line to print before and after that total. Once you set your parameters, what you'll do is hit OK, and then you'll just have to double click in the spot where the total should go. So you're indicating the range of lines that should make up that total. So in this case, for my full net income loss, I would go all the way to the bottom and double click. If it was just revenues, I would click at the top and then click right here above cost of goods sold. So that would put those together as a revenue grouping. Each heading and total is assigned a line number as well. So that grouping becomes line, say, 10. So it'd be 10, 20, 30, just like your individual line numbers. So maybe line 10 through 50 belongs to grouping 10. That way each one has a code, so you can go ahead and keep track of them a little bit more easily. If you are not creating from scratch, you just want to go through and make some edits to your financial statement, this is where you would start. So the Statement Design Layout Report, what this is it shows you by GL account, each GL account, and what line it's pointing to on your financial statements. You can only run it for one company and one design at a time, so A, B, or C. It just gives you a listing. It's automatically sorted by GL account. My recommendation is to send it to Excel, and that way you can sort it by line number as well. If you have any GL accounts that are not assigned to a line number, they will show up on this report too. So if you are noticing things missing from your financials or it's not balancing the way you think it should, this would be the first report to run just to see where each GL is pointing to, what's making up those line totals that you don't think are correct, and if there's anything missing. So if there's anything in here that's blank or says not, line number not set. So I'll pause here and jump into Jonas. Where we're working is in General Ledger, Design. Quick Setup Financials is here, so I'll just click on that. So you need to have a brand new design to be able to use Quick Setup Financials. So you'll choose your company, choose the new design, and I believe for my club it's C, and then choose whether you're setting up your balance sheet or your income statement. First, you'll get instructions. So if you can't remember what I said in this webinar or you don't have access to the video right away, you do get some instructions here telling you kind of what to do. And then you'll come into the setup screen. So to set up a line number, what you'll do is just type in a statement description of, say, sales. And then over here, just double click on the GL accounts that you want to make up that line. Once you're done, you'll hit OK, and it will take you to the next screen, which would be your headings and total screen. Let's do expenses. So this is my headings and total screen. Again, you get the pop-up of instructions to tell you exactly what to do. Hit exit. So then for my grouping, what I do is click above sales. There's my setup headings and totals. I don't need a heading, but I do need a total, and that'll be net income. I do want to reverse the sign because hopefully it's going to be a negative number, which means I had more sales than expenses. And I'll put a double line under my total. So if I say OK here, I now just have to select the location of the total that's going to belong to this heading. So the total belongs at the very end. So now I've put sales and expenses in one grouping called net income. Say OK, and then your financials will be set up. So this is your last chance to edit. Do you wish to continue? You'll say yes. So now I've set up design C for my club with line numbers and headings and totals. I can go ahead and move on and start creating my report. If I ever need to go back and see what line numbers belong to what GLs, I go to Design and then Financial Statement Design Layout Report. Run it for my company, and I'll choose Design A. You can show just the accounts that aren't linked to a line number, or you can show all accounts. And my recommendation is to export it to Excel so you can sort it the way you'd like it. So we'll just hit Export. So now I have a nice neat list of my GL accounts, their description, the line numbers that they belong to, as well as the financial statement description. So I've got a problem here. My financial statement only has one line that has GLs populating to it, which is membership dues. Everything else is showing as line number not set up. So when I run design code A and my financial statements don't balance, this is why, because my GLs aren't pointing to a line number. The line number not set up means that we need to attach a line number to a general ledger account manually. So to do that, you'll go to General Ledger, Files, Set Up Edit Chart of Accounts. Choose your company, and then find the account number that was not linked to a line number. So let's choose, say, Event Food. So line number on financial statement A, if I hit the lookup, I'd have to choose off this list which line number I'd like to link it to. I'm in Event Food and I'm only seeing membership dues. So what that means is that I need to create a new line number for this GL account. In B and C, it looks like I do have those set up. And that means that I can choose those lines for B and C. So that's what we mean when we say you have 3 different designs. Even though it's the same GL, same totals, this one belongs to just a grouping called sales. This one belongs to a grouping called event revenue. And maybe for line A, what I'll do is create a line number per GL account, and that way it's super detailed. I know exactly what's in each GL. So it's super detailed, kind of minimal detail, and then no detail at all. It's just a summary. So those are an example of the 3 different ways you can use those line numbers. You also have the 3 options down here, line number if negative. So line number if negative, usually you'd want those to be the same, so they always post to the same description. There are some GL accounts where if it's a negative number, you'd want it to be in one grouping, and a positive number, you'd want it to be in another grouping. So that's when you could change that up. So if it's a negative number, you'd put it somewhere. If it's positive, you'd put it somewhere else. So we'll say OK here, and we'll jump back on track. So to set up a financial statement line number, what you need to do is go to General Ledger, Design, Set Up/Edit Financial Statement Line Numbers. So this lets you edit the description. It also lets you edit the presentation of individual lines. And you can set certain lines to group with others for percentages. So you have a special box down at the bottom just about percentages. If you show percentages for the line, what it does is it follows the rules of its heading and total. So my heading and total grouping would follow my percentages unless I said I want it to be in a special range. So if I, for example, the one I just set up that has all my revenue accounts under a line called sales, that would show the percentage for just the line called sales. If I wanted it to be, well, a golf percentage and a food percentage, I'd have to put in those golf line numbers and those food line numbers for the percentage that I need them to be included in. So you can do it on a special range. By default, it is just the headings and totals, which if that's fine for your club, then definitely leave those percentages as they are. So just to jump back into Jonas, to create a new financial statement line number, you'll go to General Ledger, Design, Financial Statement Line Numbers right here. Choose your company, choose the design code that you're using, and then choose your type. These are the line numbers I have, and you can see because they were created by Quick Setup Financials, I have space in between each one. It goes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So what I will do is go ahead and create a new line number for my spa income, and maybe I'll put it right below golf shop for 55. So I'll add another line number, do line number 55, and the description is what prints on my financials. So I'll just write in what I'd like to see. Because this is an income account, I have to reverse the sign. If it was an expense account or something on my balance sheet that's not a liability, you do not have to reverse the sign. So reverse the sign is only for things that would go into your GLs as credits. I can have a special range for my percentages, otherwise my percentage just falls under my headings and total percentage. And if I did want to do that, I would check off the special range and then choose what lines get included with the spa income percentage. So if I wanted to say I only want to see I want percentages to be for event and food and beverage, and then I want to see my percentages for golf shop, miscellaneous, and spa, I would put in a 50 to 60 for the spa one. So that would just group them together. Otherwise, all the sales get grouped together. So what I'll do is say OK here, and I can see my new spa income line right here. Now that I have that line number, I need to attach it to a GL account. So I'll go back to Files, Set Up Edit Chart of Accounts. Choose my company, choose the account I need to link it to, which is spa income. And I was working in Statement Design B, So what I'll do is just hit my lookup here and choose my new line number. And I'll do the same for if it's negative. So now that I've created that line number, I can come back into my GL setup and choose what line number it belongs to. A really good habit to get into is when you create a new general ledger account, start right away and make it part of the process to attach the line number as soon as you can. So every GL account should have a line number. So once you have your line numbers straight and you put in your descriptions and any percentages or reversals you need to do, you can go ahead and do your headings and totals. So the headings and totals are just the different groupings for different sections of the report. It can be by department, it can be by type, so assets, liabilities, equity, income, expenses. And when you set up a heading and total, you just need to tell me what range of line numbers is included in this heading and total. So if you're not using the Quick Setup Financials, you will go to in Jonas, General Ledger, Design, Financial Statement Headings and Totals right here. Choose your company, choose your statement design, and I've just been bouncing around through the designs that I have in my test company. You will stick to A, B, or C when you're doing your maintenance. And then choose your type. So let's do my income statement. If I look at my groupings, you can see I have 3. So I have one that's the total net income, one that's revenue, and one that's expenses. So that's really basic. Maybe I want to see some totals now for my food and beverage department versus my golf, sports, and spa department. So I'll need to add another heading and total group. My next available number was 40, so I'll just do 40. And then the description of my heading here will be total F&B department. And my description of the total will be the same. So now what I need is to tell Jonas what line numbers to include. So what I'll do is look up here, say that includes event revenue all the way down to my beverage sales. So line 20 to line 40. This is still revenue, so I'm reversing the sign. And then my underline to print under the total, I'll just do a single for both. So if I say OK here, I've now created a heading and total group for just my F&B department, which is included in my total revenue because of the line number range, but it's going to be broken out in its own section within the total revenue grouping. You can do the same thing for my total sports department as well. So again, I'm just adding another group, doing 50, and then I'm doing my, let's call it athletics. Athletics and spa. So this time I'm including line numbers golf shop income all the way to miscellaneous. I do still need to reverse the sign, and I'll just do a single underline. You do have some other kind of options here about suppressing the blank line. So if you're finding your report is too spaced out, you can suppress those lines. And then once again, the percentages, you'll have a percentage if you do have a percentage column next to this total. If you want it to calculate on a special range, you can go ahead and put in that special range here. So we'll say OK. To edit a heading in totals, if you notice something is not reporting where it should, the same spot, so you'll choose your company statement and type. In the grouping, you can pull up an existing grouping. So let's take a look at revenue. I'm going to stick with my spa example because I know that's a line I just created. So if I double click on revenue, I need to make sure that spa is being included in my line numbers. So total revenue goes from line 10, which is membership. Right now it only goes to line 50. So on my financial statements, spa income wouldn't have shown in my revenue totals. So then under spa income, if I double click there, I've now increased this range to include 55, which is spa. So we'll say OK there. Okay, there we go. So this is just a screenshot for the people who are printing the slides at home of where we just were. The slides, again, and I'll say this a couple times probably throughout, but the slides are at jonassupport.com under Resources and Training, under Continuing Education, so where you would have signed up for this webinar. The video will be posted under Resources and Training and then Video Library. Like I said, we are recording right now, so as soon as we're done with this webinar today, I will send it off to the marketing team and get it posted for you. So once you have your headings and totals set, you can go ahead and start looking at adding some special features. This is also the spot to look if you notice that your financial statements print a weird space somewhere, or they page break when you don't think they should be page breaking. So this is where to look to see if maybe it's being told to do that. So these are the special features you have available to you. You can include a line break, so if you want to space out your report a little bit more. You can also include a note. So the note is just followed by the text you want on the statement. So if it's like a note saying something like about your shares, so note equals 5,000 common shares would print 5,000 common shares on the statement underneath the line that you designate it to print at. Page would force the computer to start a new page. So if you wanted your revenues on one page, your expenses on another, or your assets on one page, your liabilities and equity on a second page, you can put in a page break. UL followed by the underline character would get an extra set of underlines. So it would go all the way across almost like a total break. But you could get a UL, single line, double line, or an asterisk line. You can also set up a stop printing command. So the stop printing command, and I'll tell you this is most commonly used so that you get accounts such as like a suspense or a holding account where you don't necessarily want it to print on your financial statements. So if you put a stop printing, it would stop printing the report before the line that the suspense account is attached to. So what you need for this is a line that's called either do not print or stop printing here, and a special feature commanding it to stop. So now that you know your options for special features, I'll jump back into Jonas and I'll show you where to attach those. So the special features are under General Ledger, Design, and then Setup, Edit, Financial Statement, Special Features. Choose your company, choose your statement, and then choose your type. And then you have to give it a feature number. So I'll click on the ones that I have here. My first one is a line break, so I've instructed it to print a line break before line 50, which is golf shop income. If you don't remember the different instructions from that slide, if you put your cursor in the instructions bar and look to the bottom left of your screen, these are all this will prompt you. So you just have to type in the full words such as line, page, or stop. And again, just a screenshot of this if you do need to come back in later on if you're printing the slides at home. And then the last kind of design feature that you have is the ability to declare schedules to your financial statement. So those headings and total groupings that we've created, you can actually have them pull out of the main body of the statement and print at the very bottom as if they're a schedule. So what you need to know before you come in here are the numbers that your heading and total groupings are attached to, and also how you want it to look. So for example, I could pull out now my total F&B heading and total group that I just created and leave just the total that says total F&B on the page without the individual lines that say event revenue, food revenue, beverage revenue. So what I would need to do is create a new schedule number, know my heading and total group for total F&B, name the schedule, and then I do have some options here to start the schedule on a new page as well as show the total on the page. So that would leave just the total and it takes out the detail of all those individual lines. So now that you've created your line numbers, your headings and totals, you've attached all of your special features, you can go ahead and start generating financial statements. So within each design A, B, and C, so each set of line numbers, headings, and totals, you can have an unlimited number of financial statements. So to design your financial statements, you'll go to General Ledger, Design, Financial Statement Report Generator. To create a new report, you'll choose Add Another Report, and then you'll have to give the report a code. To edit an existing report, you just have to choose it from the list. It will take you to a screen such as this, and this is where you can do most of your editing. So at this point, I will jump back into Jonas so we can take a look at this together. So it's, again, General Ledger, Design, Financial Statement Report Generator. Choose your company, and then these are the reports that I've already created. I can add another report design or I can edit an existing one. So what I'll do is edit my existing one. So the first thing you need is a statement code. If it's an existing report, you don't need to change the code. If it's a new report, you do need to type in the code. Every club has a different kind of structure as to how they code their statements. My recommendation would be either to start with what it is. So if it's an income statement, start with IS and then do a dash, dash monthly, dash yearly, dash date range. If it's a balance sheet, start with the BS. So BS dash monthly, dash yearly, dash totals. After you've chosen the statement code, you just have to give it a title. And then the title is just what it's stored under. The title also prints at the top of the report when you print it. And then choose the type. So the type is how you tell me whether or not it's a balance sheet, an income statement, and if it's an income statement, is it one statement for all your departments or is it a different department on each page? So if you are using the Jonas departments, those are the digits that come after the GL account, not just using 00 for everything. You can have each department print on a different page. So that would be, you would choose ISDV if you wished for that. If you wanted everything just on one financial statement, you would use ISCO. And then you can also do the same with balance sheets. Obviously less common with balance sheets to have departments, but the balance sheet here is just your total, and then your divisional one is here. So I'm a big fan of the total company, so I'll leave that. Then you choose your design, so whether or not we're using the design of A, B, or C. Once you've chosen that, you can start to add conditions. So the conditions here are department numbers. You can condition based on departments. So even if you did choose the total company, you could say, well, yes, I want everything, but I only really want to see department 10, 20, and 30. Those are the only ones we use, or maybe those are the only ones that are relevant to this. So that's where you would put in the departments you wish to filter. So if it's not one per page or all on one page, you can filter them out based on conditions. And then additional lines just puts lines at the bottom of the page for spacing if you're finding it looks too crowded. So once you set up all that, you can go ahead and start building your financial statements. So these here are the columns that you have available, and you have up to 99 columns that you can work with. Within each column, you have different rows that mean different things. So the top row is the data. So this is what this column is going to produce. The second row is the format. So for numbers, you have a number of different formats that you can choose from, including having decimals, having no decimals, having brackets instead of negative signs, having the negative sign. And again, it's totally up to you what you want to use. You just want to keep it uniform. And then if you are a club that is very prosperous, you can also round to the thousands if you wish. One thing to note is, yes, the reverse sign is here. You do not need to use reverse sign on a whole column because that will reverse everything that prints in that column, not just the revenues. So you would always probably just use the ones without the R's. And then it's just totally up to you whether you like decimals or negative signs. The number of characters is how wide the column is. So it gives you a total character down at the bottom. And depending on the number of characters, and unfortunately the actual number is escaping me right now, but there's a certain threshold where if it goes over a certain number of characters, Jonas will automatically print the report in landscape. Then you have heading 1 and heading 2, which is heading 1 and heading 2. So you only get as many characters as are up here, so you can have them stacked on top of each other instead of going across. So these are my headings, and these are free types. But the data that you pull in sometimes does come in with automatic headings. And then down below you have your calculation field. So the calculation field can be used for budget codes. It can also be used for calculations. So let's go through all of those in a little bit more detail. So when you first get in there, the first thing you want to start doing is putting data on the report. So the data comes from the left-hand side. You have a list of all the available fields that you can put in, sorted by date range. So the top line miscellaneous are the things like calculations or descriptions. You can actually choose to print the financial statement line number. You can put in percentages. You can put in empty columns for spacing. And then actual date range is up in the miscellaneous line as well, just because it doesn't fall into monthly, yearly, quarterly, or budget. And then you have everything within monthly, yearly, quarterly, or budget that you can choose from as well. So to get data into the financial statement, just choose the data that you'd like, drag and drop it into the column, And then you can use those format options like the number of characters, the heading, and the display format to choose the presentation. If you're using a calculation, the calculation is very similar to Excel, except there are no cells. So you wouldn't be using row A, B, C, or D. You're just using C for column and then the column number that it is. So what I'll do is jump back in now. So what I've done here is under miscellaneous, I've dragged in description because I want to tell what each line is showing me, and the description comes from your financial statement line numbers. This one is my this month budget. So what I've done is opened up budget and chosen budget for the month and dragged it into that column. When you choose something like budget, you do have a mandatory field in the calc line. So these three little dots, if you open it up, will show me all the budgets I have on file in Jonas. That budget code needs to be changed every month, or every year. So those numbers are static. So you can have a this year budget and a last year budget on the same report, but you need to tell Jonas which code is which. I will show you as soon as we exit out of this screen how to change them en masse, so you don't have to go in and change all your financial statement budget codes at the end of the year, because I can understand that can be quite cumbersome. The next column I have here is monthly. So if I open up my monthly, you have your actuals, your averages, and then you have a 12-month spreadsheet. So if you don't like the way your fiscal year is set up, or you just want a rolling spreadsheet, the 12-month spreadsheet will always change based on the date that you run the report. So you could do all 12 months, and if I run it this month, it would show me October, September, August, July. If I ran it next month, it would show me November, October, August, September, August, July. So it always just rolls through with the date. These ones are hard-coded. So if you're putting an actual month fiscal one, no matter what month you run this report in, that column is always going to show you actual month fiscal one. You also have the option of actual month this year and actual month last year for comparison. So whichever month I run this in, it will tell me this month this year. Same with this month last year. So I'll just pull that in there. Then you have your year-to-date. So year-to-date, you would open that up, and you have actual year-to-date this year, and then you also have a rolling spreadsheet year-to-date, just like the monthly. Then you have the option of putting in calculations. So to put in a calculation, first what you'll do is drag and drop the calculation in, and then you need to tell Jonas what the calculation actually should be. So for example, in this one, let's do a variance. So what I'll do is just type in my header of variance, and in the calculation, I need to subtract this month minus the budget to know how far off I am. So what I'll do is do C3, which is column 3, this one, minus C2, which is column 2, right there. You can also do addition, subtraction, and you could make this into a percentage if you'd like, just by putting the brackets around it. Oh, goodness. And dividing by 100. So once you're happy with your report, you have a couple of options up here. You can point it to Excel. So if you click on Excel and give it a path, so give it a workbook to always update to, once that's set up and the Excel button is highlighted in yellow, you cannot go back in and just print the report or PDF it. It always has to go to that Excel spreadsheet. You can add a footer to the report. So these are all the footer options that you have, including report code, the date, the time, the terminal, and the user ID that prints the report, as well as the page numbers. You can secure this report. So by default, everyone's allowed to edit the design and everyone's allowed to print the report. But what you could do is take that away and then just add certain users as secure for printing. So only certain people would be able to print your financial statements. If you're ready to print, what you'll do is hit OK. And then you can come out to Reports, Company Financial Statements, choose your company, choose your period, and then choose the report you'd like to print, and then hit Print. From here, it's just your regular Jonas print screen, so you can still send it to Excel by using Smart Viewer. You can hit PDF, you can hit View, you can print it, you can email it. So I have my monthly data, I have my year-to-date data, I have my variance, I have my totals being calculated, and then down at the very bottom, I've got my net income. You'll also notice I have a page break between my revenues and my expenses, and that's that special feature that we set up together. So at the end of the year, what you'll want to make sure that you're doing is changing the budget code in your financial statements. Otherwise, you're always going to have last year's budget on this year's financial reports. So you can do that by going to Design and then change budget codes in financial statement. So what this does is it finds all occurrences of, say, budget code 2016 and changes it to 2017. Okay, let's get back on track here. And that is actually all the material I have for you today in presentation form, but what I will do now is turn to the chat box. I will read out all those questions and answer them, and then I'll go ahead and unmute the phone. So if you do have a question, you don't have to put it in the chat anymore. I'm going to unmute the phones probably in the next 5 minutes. So let's get through these ones first. The first question I have here is, I have come into a new company that has various accounts that are not always in the correct order, i.e. cost of sales that should be in operations. Should I use the quick setup so I can select certain accounts into one place? Yeah, that would probably be the fastest way for sure. If you have a free design, A, B, or C, that you haven't used yet or hasn't been set up, the quick setup is definitely the easiest way to do that, because you can just go through the list and double click the accounts without them being in the same order. There's no harm in doing it the manual way by creating the line numbers and going to those GLs to attach them. It just might take you longer to search through. So if you can use the quick setup financials, definitely do. And the next one, when reports go to Excel, the total calc shows up as a number, not a formula, correct? Oh, yes, definitely, yeah. So the only time you see the calculation is in that design screen. You don't see the calculation when you've exported it or when you've printed the report. You just see the number. And especially in Excel, it's just the number. It comes out as text. The next question I have is, if the balance sheet is not balancing, can you go over the report to run it again? Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can run your balance sheet as many times as you need to. The first thing you'd want to do if your balance sheet is not balancing is run that financial statement design layout report and make sure that all of your balance sheet accounts are linked to a line number. Once you've done that, it's probably going to be a matter of, and all the accounts are linked to a line number, sorry. Once you've figured out if all the accounts are linked to a line number and it's still not balanced, then I would start looking into like your trial balance report, your trial balance report, and make sure that your actual GLs are balanced as well. The next question I have is there a webinar for setting up a cash flow statement? I know it was briefly mentioned in the 11 a.m. webinar. No, there's not. The cash flow statement would be a master generator report. So what was done in the 11 a.m. webinar was the master generator design with GLs. So you just use the tools from that webinar to create your cash flow statement. Everyone has a different GL structure, so there's no real standard cash flow in Jonas. The next one I have is, can you describe how to move an account from one line to a different line? Definitely. So what you need to do is go to General Ledger, Files, and then Set Up Edit Chart of Accounts. Choose the account that you wish to move, and then you have your 3 line numbers listed here. So then you'll just hit the lookup, and you can move it to a different line number if you need to. There we go. The next question I have is, can you review, again, the best setup department breakdowns with a company that uses sub-accounts for departments? The best setup department breakdowns for a company that uses sub-accounts for departments. So I need a little bit more information on that. Do you mean, so for each account, you would have, say, a GL that's called, say, sales, and then in each sub-account, you'd have golf, a sub-account for golf, a sub-account for food and beverage? I'm going to hold that one until we unmute the phones because I do need a little bit more information for that one. The next one I have is, would like to add non-financial data to the note line, such as golf rounds played. Can this be coded to draw from other modules? No, unfortunately not. But what you can do is set up a master generator report, and that can pull from other modules like Timekeeper or Tea Time or Point of Sale. The next one is, when moving an account from one line to another, Jonas says something about rebuilding lines. Is that needed? Is this a pop? Again, I'm going to save that one until we unmute the phones because I'm just not sure. Is this a pop-up message or exactly what that message says? And then the next question I have is, can you clear a design A, B, or C completely to start a new design? Yes, but you will have to contact, it's not something that you can do on your own. You will have to contact Jonas Support. It's a utility they'd have to run because they're actually clearing data from your system. So definitely contact Jonas Support. They may or may not be willing to do it for you because it is a little bit risky to be completely clearing data, especially when it comes to general ledgers. But definitely contact them and they can have a discussion with you about it. So I'm going to put a freeze on the text bot questions unless you do not want your voice on the recording. I'm going to go ahead and unmute the phones now. Please just hold off for a couple of seconds until I let you know when I can hear you. It does sometimes take a minute to kick in, especially with this number of people. And if you have a noisy office and you don't have a question, please mute your phone on your end because we don't need that background noise.
Line unmuted.
All right, so I think we should all be unmuted now if anyone has any questions for me at this time.
I have a question. Can you verify when you were going through the financial statement report generator, you were dragging and dropping from the left-hand side into the column the type of data that you want. The 12-month spreadsheet type of data makes it so that you can enter in a date range when you're creating the report or you want to print the report. And so then the data changes depending on the date range that you've entered. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Sort of, yeah. So if you're using the 12-month spreadsheet, what it does when you print the report, and I'll just click print here so you can see the field, it asks you for the period. So then based on the period that you enter, it does the spreadsheet backwards from that month. So it's not quite a date range, but it just asks you what month do we start with as this month, and then the 1 month, 2 month, 3 month back calculation is based on what you put in here.
That's really handy. Like, and does it go just for 1 year, or can I print a range that spans 2 years?
The 12-month spreadsheet options there's only 12 of them, so you can only go back a full year. But we do have, if we scroll up to the miscellaneous, there is an actual date range here. So if you drag that in the calculation, you could just put in, say, like 2017 October to I should have done that backwards, 2015 October to 2017 October, so that would be a 2-year range. So you can put in custom date ranges as well by using the actual date range. The 12-month spreadsheet just goes 1 month back from the month that you're printing the report.
Oh, I like that. Okay, that's really handy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the actual date range has been such a blessing when they put that in. And this is the format you need to use. So in the calc field, it's year month dash year month for your range.
Okay. Okay, that was my question. Thank you very much.
No worries.
I don't know.
Stuff like leaks.
So he told me that the board committed.
Are there any other questions for me at this time, or anybody who had a question in the chat box that I couldn't quite answer? Do you want to give more information?
Right.
In the member meeting, they just said, hey, have it down to 2.
Oh.
Go to
Okay, I'm going to